And now it is my great pleasure to ask Peter Diamandis to join us on the dais to share his unique perspective on the future. Peter is founder and executive chairman of the XPRIZE Foundation and co-founder and vice chairman of Celularity. He's an international pioneer in the field of innovation, incentive competitions, and longevity, and was named one of the world's 50 greatest leaders by Fortune magazine in 2014. He is filled with great optimism and exciting to share with you his vision, as I know he will inspire all of you. Thank you.
Good morning, everybody. Delegates, my esteemed members of the Vision Circle and Innovation Board of the XPRIZE from around the world, it's a pleasure and honor to be here. Robin, thank you. We are truly living during the most extraordinary time ever in human history. It's a time where the challenges we want to take on are within our grasp. What was once only possible by governments and the largest corporations on the planet can now be done by individuals and small teams powered by exponential technologies. It's hard to remember how extraordinary the world is today. We're bombarded by news of problems and disasters. But I want to give you some context from history. So 700 years ago, the plague killed 200 million people in a year, 40% of England. 500 years ago, famine claimed 3 million lives in France. Only 100 years ago, in 1918, right, 100 years ago, World War I claimed 16 million lives in a single year. The flu pandemic claimed 50 million lives in a single year. If we had those as our headlines today, we would be in shock. We forget how amazing the world has progressed in just the past century. The per capita income for every nation on the planet has tripled. The human lifespan has doubled. The cost of food has dropped 30-fold. The cost of transportation hundreds of fold. The cost of communications millions of fold, just in the last century. Another way to express that is looking at the human lifespan. Back 100,000 years ago, during the days of the caveman, the average lifespan was in the late 20s. At age 13, you'd go into puberty and have a child. By age 26, your child was having a child. And before McDonald's or Whole Foods was around, when food was scarce, the best thing you could do was give your bits back to the environment and not take the food from your grandchildren's lives. So the average lifespan was late 20s. Middle ages, it grew to 35. 100 years ago, it was mid-40s. Today, it's 80. But I know my mission, and many of yours, my colleagues at Celularity, is really how do we add 20, 30 healthy years in our lives? How do we make 100 years old and you 60? And then intercept all these other technologies we'll encounter to extend a healthy human lifespan beyond that. You know, we take the technology and the empowerment we have today for granted. But I want to give you a sense of the true power that we have to do good, to take on the challenges that we want. Right? I teach at Singularity University that whatever becomes digitized enters a period of slow, deceptive growth, then it becomes disruptive, then it dematerializes, demonetizes, and democratizes products and services. So just a few examples here. Consider storage, which in the genomics world today is so important, right? In 1981, 1 gigabyte of storage cost $500,000. Today, it's 25 million times cheaper at 2 cents per gigabyte. How about computation? In 1971, Intel put out its first computer chip, the Intel 4004. It had 2,300 transistors on it, $1 each. Intel no longer actually tells you how many transistors are on their chips, but the last one, the Core i6, had 14.4 billion transistors, less than a millionth of a penny each. What does that mean? It's a 330 billion-fold increase in price performance in 45 years. What does that even mean like? What it means is you're now more empowered than the computational power of all the governments on the planet just 30 years ago. Each of you in your pocket. But that doesn't even compare to what's coming next in quantum computing. This year, 2018, is expected to be the year that we first have quantum supremacy. That moment in time where a quantum computer can demonstrably prove and solve a problem that no classical computer can do. So what does that mean? So Google just recently unveiled Bristol Cone. It's a new quantum computer chip that has 72 qubits. By the time it gets to 300 qubits, it'll be doing more calculations than there are atoms in the universe, or at least the known universe. So in terms of curing, this is about to be an extraordinary revolution in drug discovery. So pharmaceutical companies today are spending decades and billions of dollars trying to discover molecules that affect us. But soon quantum computers are going to be able to allow us to model molecular interactions at a level like never before. I want you to imagine an individual working on a quantum computer that's on the cloud who's able to look at basically the interaction of a particular molecule with all 20,000 coded proteins in the human genome. We're going to see drug discovery go off the charts. Not 30 years from now, not 20 years from now, this next decade. What about another technology? What about communications? We take it for granted, but last year in 2017, we had 3.8 billion people connected on planet Earth. In the next 5 years, we're about to see the deployment of the 5G global network that Qualcomm has been developing. We're about to see Facebook and Google with balloons and drones and satellites. OneWeb with 900 satellites deployed with $1.2 billion of SoftBank's money. And then layer on top of that, 4,425 satellites being launched by SpaceX. We're about to connect every single human on the planet with a gigabit connection speed, a gigabit per person, effectively for free. We're going to connect every single human. And that connection is a lifeline for health sciences. That connection is an ability to upload their data, give them AI support. It doesn't slow down, right? IoT and sensors, Internet of Things and sensors. By 2020, we'll have 50 billion connected devices with a trillion sensors in the world. By 2030, it's 500 billion connected devices with 100 trillion sensors. Every single person will be monitored, every single element of their lives, their glucose, their blood pressure, their microRNAs, their vitamin D levels, uploaded to an AI that tells them in the moment exactly what their health status is. We're all going to have a version of Jarvis, if you remember that AI from Iron Man, that's collecting your personal data and allowing you to be the CEO of your own health, telling you in the instant, in the moment, what you need. Doesn't slow down. Genome sequencing. We have, of course, Francis Crick here for his incredible work. 18 years ago, the price of sequencing a human genome, all 3.2 billion letters of your life, $100 million in 9 months' time. Today, with Illumina's new machines, it's an hour and $100. We're talking about trillion price performance increases in capability. And then there's a revolution in cellular medicine. Stem cells, natural killer cells, CAR T cells. It's extraordinary the power that we have. At the end of the day, I truly believe there is nothing that is truly scarce. Nothing. That we have the ability with these powers simply to say, this is the problem I want to solve. We talk about our desires and our abilities. I would posit that we're living in a time, a day and age, that within our lifetimes, we truly have the ability to meet the needs of every man, woman, and child on this planet. The world's biggest problems are the world's biggest business opportunities. As I teach at SU, want to become a billionaire? Help a billion people. That is the extraordinary world that we're alive in today. So the question is, what is the challenge you desire? What is the impact you want to make? I believe that each of us should be taking on what I call the impact pledge, to stand up and say, during my lifetime, this is the problem that I want to solve. This is what I stand for. Measure me by this impact that I make during my life. Because we can. because we must. You know, it used to be that capital was restrictive. Today, we're living in a world of crowdsourcing, crowdfunding, angel capital, venture capital, sovereign wealth funds coming in. Last year, we had $3.8 billion in ICOs, initial coin offerings, and this new mechanism generating revenue. This year, in 2018, in the first 4 months, there was $6.2 billion in ICOs. Capital is flowing to great ideas. What is your great idea? At the end of the day, what I believe is that each of us have what I call a massively transformative purpose. A purpose in our lives, that purpose that wakes us up in the middle of the night, keeps us going late at night, or wakes us up in the morning. And we deserve that. In a day of growing older, what we do with our time matters. What moonshots we take on to change the world matters. So today, my question to you is, what is the impact you want to make on this planet? There is nothing that you don't have access to. More knowledge on Google or Baidu, more computational power on the cloud, more capital, more access to AI. What is it you need? Ultimately, it is the dedicated, passionate human mind. The mind that says, I refuse to allow this disease to go on for a day longer. I refuse to not have the ability to feed $1 billion people, or to save 1 billion women's lives. So, we are alive in a time of great capabilities. The choice is yours. It's an honor and a pleasure to be here. I thank you for your time. Robin, thank you for hosting us, and I'm excited to have a chance to meet all of you.